Howdy, howdy, fellow movie watchers, and welcome back for another edition of the Wisco Movie Watchers podcast, brought to you by PTE Creative. As always, we're your hosts, Evan Davies, and our greatest film fan, Dylan Davies. We are here back for our top 100. This is our March episode. You guys have been seeing the best action sequences or the best action scene tournament start over on the ONETA Show and the crossover with us here on the Wisco Movie Watchers podcast. We also just did the Oscars recap, so we're just giving some love to movies right now. We're gonna have some fun doing it. So today we're going through 80 through 71. We've already done our first 20 films of the top 100. If you'd like to check those episodes out to see what we said, please go do it. You can see a quick graphic right here. That is what it's going to be today. So check out those older episodes to get a little bit more context on it. And as we always have to say, this is a personal top 1. This is not.
Yep.
This is not Empire's top 100 films or BuzzFeed's top 100 films, or whatever the case may be. Yeah, and we can actually say we've watched all of them, as opposed to half those lists where the people writing them half the time haven't seen the movies clearly. They write the same blurb that's been said about them for years.
I think I've seen all the Empire ones.
Yeah, Empire, at least they usually do a decent job of getting a couple different people in the mix, so I kind of buy it. But there's a couple like I've seen BuzzFeeds or like Watch Mojos or whatever. I'm like, you fuckers haven't watched half these movies. Shut up.
Yeah.
All right. So we last ended with 81. Dylan's 81 was Duck Soup from 1933, a very interesting choice. I ended with The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. Start us off with your number 80, Dylan.
My number 80 is Monsters, Inc.
Monsters, Inc. Wow, that's a little bit high. I didn't think it was going to make your top 100.
Yep. At one point it was like, once again, I should have checked like how high they used to be. It was probably like down in the 40s at one point. I really love Monsters, Inc. Yeah, it's just an early Pixar at their best.
Sure.
Just fun, creative, heartwarming.
Like, hyper creative, especially. Very unique for the time.
Yeah. And it's like really, really high concept Pixar.
Yeah.
And it like, I really love that it pulls at your heartstrings at times. Like, the ending really crushes you when Sully has to separate from Boo. And it's pretty crazy how much you connect with that character, even though she barely talks.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it is a very well told story of connection and going all that stuff. It's just I knew your love of Pixar and I knew your love of Disney in terms of like their high quality films, but didn't think Monsters Inc. was going to be there. And Monsters Inc. is one of those things I think people would associate me liking a lot more than I probably. I think it's fun though.
Also, remember that Monsters Inc. game with like the dodgeball and everything?
Yeah, Monsters Inc. Dodgeball. You fucking loved that game.
That was such a fun fucking game.
On the Nintendo GameCube?
Yeah, it was so fun.
God, it bothered me to no fucking end that we had that game, but we couldn't possess Super Smash Bros. It drove me up the fucking wall. I was like, I just want to play Melee. Why can we not own Melee? And we got like a bunch of games that all circled around Melee, but we never somehow pulled off buying Melee. And I was like, what the fuck? Yeah. We had Monsters Inc. Dodgeball.
It's also like good. It's another technical achievement for Pixar where it's really showing like the technical aspects of animation with like they show Sully and all the like the hair and stuff. You can see like the individual fibers and all that. Really cool. It's directed by Peter Docter, who also did Up. He also did Soul. I think he's like the creative director of Pixar at this point now. I think he took over for John Lasseter after he had that whole E2 debacle.
Yep. Not to minimalize it, it's just one of those. He was very much in part of the list of studio heads that.
Yeah. I don't know how serious I didn't actually look into how serious the allegations were against him, but
I thought at the end it just kind of turned out that he was just kind of a prick.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, kind of unfortunate. It is what it is.
Yeah, I mean,
Um, yeah. Um, Also a great cast.
yeah,
You know,
John
every Pixar,
Goodman,
every
Crystal.
Pixar, I should say like every Disney Pixar movie has a great cast. Like it just
They certainly learned in the '90s. Why don't we actually get real
stars.
casts? Why don't we
Yeah.
actually get stars? And voice acting became such a big thing for stars to do stuff. And I think that
Yeah.
works. The irony being now, it's overblown where you don't need half that shit. Where
Well,
I think it's a good mix, but I think a perfect example, it's a movie I like, but like the Super Mario Bros. Movie that just came out in 2023. You don't need Chris Pratt, Charlie Day, Seth Rogen, the whole crew. I think Anya Taylor-Joy is a phenomenal Princess Peach. But you don't need Chris Pratt to play Mario. You just need
I
someone to
think
do a great Mario voice.
I think there's a difference between those kinds of movies where they're just having fun
Yeah.
and something like Pixar where there actually is real heart to it.
Yes.
Like where you actually do need some kind of acting. It's like,
It's also it destroys the magic for me, but I do like seeing movies that I like that I know are good, but they don't have that huge place in my heart animation wise. I do like watching footage of the lines being recorded because it's not like someone's just sitting. It's not like Tom Hanks is sitting there as Woody, just with a piece of paper, just going like, "There's a snake in my boot." You know, he's
oh
actually
no, no.
physically getting
Oh
involved in
yeah.
the production,
Oh
doing
yeah,
that.
he's very animated
He's very
doing it.
animated,
Yeah.
and that's the thing is, I protect animation like that where I've seen roughly 10 seconds of Mark Hamill recording the Joker for Batman the Animated Series and all the, and I refuse to do it. I see it and I immediately stop. Like I don't want the magic to be killed. I
Uh
just I just want Mark's voice to be the Joker and be the Joker.
I love watching Robin Williams do the gene
Yes.
like behind the scenes stuff because he is so fun.
Very animated, very forward with everything, and it's the same thing. They do the same thing for Monsters Inc. Got a really good cast involved. It's a good movie, and the technical achievement specifically, like people do not realize how difficult it is to do hair,
Yeah.
especially at the time, visual effects wise,
Yeah.
for computer animation. That was wild. Good movie though, nonetheless. I'll take over my 80 here. Going to 1981, 20th at the box office. We're at History of the World Part 1.
Good movie. Good
But
movie.
blurb I have here is A History of the World through the lens of Mel Brooks is everything a 15-year-old me needed. The Spanish Inquisition through dance number and synchronized swimming is fucking genius.
Hmm.
And you know the line I want you to say. Can you give me the line?
I can't anymore.
Free! Free! Say it for me, kid. That was Dylan would go endlessly for days just screaming
Yes.
free, free during the the French Revolution portion of the film. Uh,
Yes.
God, what a fun movie. What a great
He,
cast too. Just knowing how to
yeah.
pick
Oh,
places and highlight people.
you can just tell like how much cachet Mel Brooks had in those days. Because like you can just tell how everyone wanted to work with him.
Yeah.
It's like the amount of people he had in his cast are crazy.
Oh yeah, no, he Mel Brooks is kind of like a Marvel-esque movie director at the time because
Kind of, yeah.
because a couple years ago when it was just like everyone's in this movie. How is
Yeah.
ever it became almost an Ocean's 11, 12, 13 kind of thing where it's just like how many stars are going to be in this fucking movie? Like, that was Mel Brooks. He just constantly had great talent all the time. And part of those were made through his movies. So that's kind of his crew. But at the same time, there are also people that were very good elsewhere and wanted to work with him.
Yeah.
Just
Also,
I love him
I
aping
was
shit over the time. I love him just
I
poking fun.
I was just looking up the poster there's something about Mel Brooks movies that I just love the posters for 'em.
They make great posters, man.
Because they're still in that classic vein of, like, really beautiful, like, painted poster.
Yeah,
Like, there's something classic and really stylish still about them that are really beautiful.
yeah. It's. I think the thing to understand about Mel Brooks, History of the World being a great movie for him to get to play with, is they take it seriously. You can tell from the poster, you can tell from the things. They take having fun very seriously.
Yeah,
But they take the piss out of everything. There's no
yeah.
limits.
He does that with all his movies.
Yeah. And that's what I adore of Mel Brooks. And then I have never watched the History of the World Part 2 series on Hulu. I knew it did not get great reviews, and
Ooh, yeah, I tried.
History of the World Part 1 is such an important movie for me that I just went, I don't know. At first I was like, "Oh, that's great. I'm glad someone got Mel to agree to do it and they got Mel on board." It's because I'm always of the why doesn't Mel work anymore? But I understand he's in his 90s and it's like
Yeah,
how much more can he really do? But just the teasers at the end of it of History of the World Part 1 are awesome where it's like Hitler on ice and you're like, "Wait, what?"
yeah,
Jews
yeah.
in space. You're like, what the fuck?
Later on, we'll be talking about Mel Brooks and Hitler, later on in my list.
Yeah,
Not in this episode,
God,
but later on.
Mel Brooks is so goddamn talented as a comedic director. He just knew
Yeah.
how to poke and prod people to get. And his relationship, movie wise, with Madeline Kahn. Every time I see Madeline
Oh,
Kahn
yeah.
in a Mel Brooks movie, I lose my shit because
I have such a crush on Madeline Kahn.
I do
Like,
too.
she's so great.
She's one of those actresses. I'm just like, God damn it. Could you imagine her getting to play little cameo bit parts in some of the shit now
Yeah.
as an older woman that just gets to take the piss out of everything? She's one of those characters, like, no disrespect, because I was just thinking because you brought Pixar up. The woman who voices Edna Mode is great. But I see Madeline Kahn in, like, that kind of role. It's just, like, voicing, like, an Edna Mode, and you're like, chef's kiss, that's beautiful, kind of thing. I love that idea for Madeline. I adore Madeline Kahn. Everything I've ever seen her in, I'm just like, oh god, Madeline Kahn. She shines in Clue. She shines in Blazing Saddles, and History of the World's no different. It's
Yeah.
so much fun. Take us to your 79.
I 79. I don't think we talked about yet, but I'm sure is on your list, is Zombieland.
Zombieland is on my list. Certainly, it's a bit higher on
Okay.
my list, but yes.
Okay, yeah. So I won't talk about it much here since it's on your list. I'll just say it was a great surprise
One of the best
because
surprises I've ever had in a theater, ever.
yeah, exactly. Like I went in expecting just like pretty much nothing. I was
Yep,
like, sure. I'll go in expecting just a whatever comedy. And it was actually one of the most fun comedies I had seen up to that point.
absolutely. I
And
remember.
like
I
just
remember. Didn't we? The three of us went to. Did you go with Dad alone and then we went together, or did all three of us go?
I'm pretty sure I went with Dad, yeah.
Because I remember Dad's description of it, where the first 3 minutes when the rules are popping up, and he's like, "This is gonna be the
Yep.
dumbest thing I've ever seen."
Yeah.
And then within the next 3 minutes, it completely flips, where the
Yeah.
intro's playing, and it's like, "For Whom the Bell Tolls" is playing, and you've got the zombie stripper running, and then you have that random guy that's dressed like bootleg James Bond and Humphrey Bogart just fucking shooting people with
Oh,
machine
yeah.
guns. It makes
Yeah.
zero sense, but it's tremendous. Um, God, but such a fun movie. But surprise is the best way to say it. That movie popped up out of nowhere, and everyone's like, "This is gonna be the dumbest thing I've ever seen." And it's such a heartfelt, fun comedy that actually does have some thought behind it too. Very
We'll talk
refreshing.
about it more when we get to it
Yes,
on
very,
your list.
very, very fun and refreshing movie to say the least. Now I'm paranoid because I was scrolling through my thing and I was like, where is Zombieland? Okay, all right. Just made sure. It was one of those movies I was like, forget to put it on the list. That'd be a problem because I know it's in there, but it's there. All right, 79. I'm going to a very different style of film. I'm certain this is much higher on your list. 1960 second highest grosser. It's Psycho. I've seen Psycho one
Oh yeah.
time. I've seen Psycho one time. It was just a couple months ago. It's one of those movies that was on the eternal list of, yeah, one of these days I'll watch it. But when you know half the twist, you're like, okay.
Yeah.
It was flabbergasting to me how good that movie is and how
Yeah.
much tension can be built. It's what the blurb I wrote for is one of the very recent additions to the list. The suspense that can be created to this day with simple cinematography is truly inspiring. And
Yeah.
goddamn Hitchcock knew what he was doing. He just knew
Yeah.
how to create tension.
It's it's a crazy wonder that you're still able to do great tension when everyone knows like everything about that movie. Like everyone knows like the shower scene,
Yeah.
but still it's still like fun, scary to watch.
Yes, and it still gets the goosebumps up a little bit. You're still like, ooh,
Yeah,
there's still some creepy tensity to this. There's just, I love that
yeah.
sequence there. But again, it's higher up on your list, so we'll save it a little bit for that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we'll be talking about that a lot later.
A lot later, yeah. All right, take us to your 78 then.
My 78 is 1994's Speed.
Speed. I didn't even know you liked that movie. Okay.
Oh yeah, this is actually one that I just in like the last couple of years I watched for the first time.
I've never seen Speed all the way through. I've seen plenty of clips of it.
Oh, yeah, I really love it. The funny thing is like yeah, the thing I wrote down is like the amount of fun, amount of that they're able to squeeze out of like pretty much just like a really simple idea.
Yeah.
Like pretty much it is like a simple idea. Like a bomb is on a bus. Like that's a pretty simple idea, but
It's the
like
Hitchcock principle. If I tell you there's a bomb and I make you sit there and know
yeah,
that there's a time and an element to it, there's tension there.
yeah, but they're able to like it's so many like fun little set pieces out of that. Like when he goes under the bus and he's like trying to wire it and everything. That's awesome. And then Sandra Bullock and Keanu Reeves, their chemistry is electric. And it's because they both had crushes on each other while they were filming,
And didn't
but
tell each other ever then?
yeah, neither of them knew that, which is great. Um,
Yeah, no, it's one of those great what ifs of celebrity that people want to see now. Now that they're
yeah,
both, I mean, I think Keanu has a partner, but like technically
yes,
they're not
I
married
think
to anyone,
yeah,
so everyone's like, "Why just let it happen? Just do it, man."
and yeah, and like the fact that they're able to build up that relationship while she's driving a bus
Yeah,
and he's worried about like um getting everyone off the bus is really impressive.
yeah,
Like, because they're not actually like talking to each other that much, but they're still developing that relationship.
yeah.
So it's really fun.
It's it stands the test of time now, which is crazy. But people always just adore what was done with it. There's a reason it
Yeah,
stands up to where people are like, "Oh, still Speed," and it's 30 years old now. God
yeah,
damn, Speed's 30 years old. You're like, shit. Uh, yeah, Keanu, he was on a hot streak during that time. Then he kind of just went afterwards.
yeah, a little bit.
And then he had John Wick, and everyone loved Keanu Reeves again. So
Yeah. Well, he deserves it.
he
Good
does.
person.
He's a great human being from all. We're gonna stay in the obligatory spooky season that has to be in my top 10 lists at all times. Uh, from one Psycho to another, I'm going American Psycho from 2000.
Okay.
One of the few films everyone assumes I would love that is actually accurate, and I actually would love. The psychosis of this film is so oddly relatable in the most memeable sense, which I adore, and all the stars in the equivalent of their high school yearbook era is so much fun. To go back and watch, like, Christian Bale, Reese Witherspoon, Jared Leto, that was it, Chloe Sevigny. Like they're all just so young, but so goddamn talented. It's insane. And
Yeah, I probably watched this when I was in high school, and I've
yeah,
only seen it the one time. I don't really remember liking it that much. I probably should go back and watch it again.
it's so intelligent because it makes a serial killer so relatable but also so abstract. It's insane. Where the human condition of him comparing business cards
That's the one scene I remember is the business card.
or him the scenes in which someone slights him and then he just goes off saying what everyone would want to say if someone pissed them off. And but it's all up here, but you don't know that at the time. You're like, God damn! You're like, oh wait. And then you almost question. You're like, I have psychotic tendencies. Like I'm relating a lot with this fucking guy. But then
Yeah,
he butchers people, and you're like, okay, interesting. Huh?
yeah. I
So
mean,
much
I
fun.
know, and people love that movie. It's like pretty much a cult movie at this point.
It is. It 1,000% is. And I love the fact that that was a huge breaking point for Christian Bale. To the point where
Yes, that's very true.
people were like, if you take that movie, your career is dead. You will never be leading man. You'll never be, and that's what leads him to being the leading man he is today. Where if he is in a movie, people pay attention. He's one of the few. He's not a classic movie star, but he's one of the few people that actually you slap his name on a movie and people go, "Well, I want to watch that because he's in it."
Yeah, and other than Tom Cruise, like one of the only like box office
Bankable
stars.
stars, yeah.
Yeah, bankable. That's a good word for it. Yeah,
He is a
because
bankable
really,
star.
yeah, because really, there aren't many of those people left.
Yeah.
Fortunately, so
Well, and that's the craziest part is, I mean, even the stuff he's done recently, he is never bad in a movie. Even in movies
he's
where,
always great.
and that's the thing is, that's why I have a soft spot. It's not in my top 100 or what, but like Terminator Salvation, it's not good. I want to make that very clear. But I have a soft spot in that movie because he's very good in it. He is a very believable leader of the Resistance, John Connor. And of course, that's where the set that kind of shit on his career for not a career, but his reputation for a little bit. The set incident where he just loses his shit
Oh yeah,
one day. Then you find out a lot
great
of stuff.
video.
You find out a lot of stuff about that moment. You're like, oh, it seems more like he just had fucking freaked out, was really stressed out more than like he
I
just
mean,
treats people like shit.
that shit probably happens on set all the time.
Yeah, and it's also so interesting to hear him speak, where he's just like, I don't really care. I just kind of do this to support my family. And you're like, how are you so good if you don't fucking care? You're like, he clearly cares, but he's very much just like, that's my job. That's what I do. I want to be with my family. I want to hang out. I don't really want to be on set half the time. You're like, how are you so fucking good then, dude? If that's where your vibes is, but it's so interesting to see. And the other thing is, I know how much work he's done I never understood until recently how much work he did as a child. And now seeing
Oh yeah,
the full arc of that, I was like, oh shit, okay, that's crazy. It will not be his only appearance in this list, let me tell you. So
sure.
I know you know I love Christian Bale deeply. So, but American Psycho is such a fun movie. So I would, it's one of those I'm like, go revisit it. I think you'd enjoy it quite a bit.
Yeah, eventually I will have to because yeah, it's been a long time.
I think maybe that's a good cult classic episode down the road when we have
Yeah,
some
that's
time,
true.
or if we
Yeah,
or when we do another commentary track, can do that and have some
yeah,
fun with it.
that's the 25th anniversary too. So
Yes, thank you for pointing that out. Yeah. All right, take us to your 77.
I-77 is 2007's Atonement. It's a Joe Wright movie.
Okay.
Not something that most people would like say is like a typical wouldn't typically say like, "Oh, that seems like the type of movie a 30-year-old man would love."
You fucking
I
love the goddamn Keira Knightley-esque period piece, dude. You really do.
yes, I no, I just love Joe Wright.
Yeah.
Like something about his work I really love, and when he works with Keira Knightley, it works for me. Um, First off, the cast is absolutely great. It's James McAvoy, Keira Knightley, Saoirse Ronan, who's really young in it, like
Talk about another
12.
talent. God, she's so
Yeah,
fucking talented.
I'm pretty sure 12 years old in it. Um, Got a young Juno Temple. Got Benedict Cumberbatch before he was ever famous. Vanessa Redgrave. Who else is it? There's a bunch of people in there. But yeah, it's kind of got a Rashomon thing where it's like telling the same story but from different
Points of view.
perspectives, and
Yeah.
then it's like revealing different aspects of it. And then there's like one central, like the central moment in it, and then it's just like um where you see like one little girl's decision and how that can just destroy people's lives.
Oh wow, okay.
And then they show how she's like she wants to be a writer and how she likes controlling people's lives and then how that can affect everyone. It's really interesting, and there's a great reveal at the end that is like absolutely devastating. So I really love it, and it's a World War II movie, so it also has that going for it.
Yeah, I always wondered who the target audience was for the Keira Knightley period piece, and I've now found it.
Me,
Ever since doing this podcast, I did not realize how many fucking Keira Knightley period pieces you loved. Not just liked, loved.
there's also a great long take of James McAvoy, which is on Dunkirk.
Okay.
The British Army on Dunkirk, which is like really impressive. So yeah, really beautiful. All right, that's like thing I'd say about all his work is like the camera work is just stunning.
Okay. Interesting. I can add it to the docket if you need me to. It's
I
not
mean,
something that immediately calls to me, but
yeah, I
yes.
was gonna say if you're not into like period piece romances, you're probably not gonna get much out of it.
Yeah,
I actually like romances, so they work for me.
they do. They do. There's
But
nothing wrong
you
with that.
That's also the big thing that goes for it is James McAvoy and Keira Knightley have insanely good chemistry, which is really funny because like they're really really good friends, which is something that you wouldn't normally associate with like good romantic chemistry.
Well, the way the world works, you never know, but
Yeah. And Keira Knightley also has like really hilarious stories where she in interviews where she tells stories of like the sex scene, how Joe Wright's just like shouting things for her to do, and they're just absolutely ridiculous. It's great. I, yeah, those are worth checking out.
okay, that's fun stuff. Well, we're gonna stay in spooky season because it's spooky season all the time in my top tens. Something that's clearly just as serious as Atonement. Going to 1995, eighth highest grossing film. Good old Casper, clearly of the same quality as Atonement.
Hey, Casper's a fun movie.
It very much is. I will say something right after the write out. It's our obligatory spooky season entry in this group of 10. Whipstaff Manor is a vibe with a multiversal variant of Wednesday Addams essentially to boot. Technically impressive, all around fun, and I think I would be correct in assuming you would say this is a very cozy movie. That Dylan Davies'
Oh
approval
yeah,
this is a cozy
that's
movie.
100%. Real quick, I actually want to Google where that house is.
It's not real. It's hurtful. It's yeah, it's very hurtful. I know. Because
It's a
I've googled it before. That's why I'm telling you it's not real. Because the idea of going to be able to go to Whipstaff Manor or just to see it would be incredible.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm seeing the pain in your eyes having to get this realization.
But it was built on a set in Maine. Or at least it was filmed on location in Maine.
Yeah, I mean they did a lot of good work. There's a lot of cool landscape shots in Casper. A lot of really pretty visuals with things of that nature.
Yeah. But when you said it's not real, I thought you meant I thought it was
It's
going
like
to be like, oh, it's just California studio.
yeah, no.
Oh, I'm glad it's in Maine.
Yeah.
That goes a long way for me.
I mean, it adds a lot. That movie's just fun. It's got some heart to it. Again, my childhood love of Christina Ricci is
Also,
again on high alert.
that movie has incredibly underrated visual effects.
Yes, it does.
I've pointed this out. I think it was during our
Or Oscars
Halloween,
or our Halloween
our
episode.
Halloween calendar episode when we talked about Casper.
Yeah.
But the YouTube channel Corridor Crew gave a great breakdown of the Casper effects, and they talk about how actually really impressive they are.
Yeah.
Because for 1995, they're pretty.
They still hold
impressive.
up. They hold up to today. They are fucking good. ILM baby. ILM.
Yeah.
I think and there's just a lot of warmth to that movie that I really
And
appreciate.
Yeah, Wild America's Devin Sawa in it. Unfortunately, not gonna make an appearance on this.
Unfortunately, I will say I should have put Wild America in my list. It's not, but it's a child. If there is one movie that binds us from our childhood, it has to be Wild America.
It is, yeah.
It's one of those movies I'm so glad when I first grabbed it. I was just like, I'm watching this, and you watched it with me. You're like, this is awesome. I was like, yeah, fucking no. But yeah, Wild America's Devin Sawa. Bill Pullman is also great in that. Getting to interact with all three ghosts all the time, and he does it seamlessly. Tremendous work. Kathy Moriarty is so much fun as just a bitch character. Yeah. And then Eric Idle's just being her little piss boy is so much fun.
Yeah, that's the main word. It's just a fun movie.
And also, great cameo from Dan Aykroyd as a Ghostbuster. Great cameo.
See, that's the one thing about the movie I don't like. But I just don't like Dan Aykroyd. So.
Yeah, you're not a Dan Aykroyd fan. You're not a Ghostbusters fan. But I think it's a really smart little logical choice. Because then, beyond the fun of it, it also does psychologically, you're like, oh shit, these ghosts are a problem. But obviously, that's not what it's meant to be. It's not meant to be this like big threat or whatever.
I wish it was Egon.
It would have been a little bit cooler if it was Egon. I mean, obviously, I would have lost my shit if it was Bill Murray as well. But I think for the role, Egon also would have been fun, where you'd been like, I'm not. Also, I would have loved if it was Ernie Hudson as Winston, just being like, "That's some shit I can't deal with, bro." So
yeah, Harold Ramis would have been better though.
Yeah, good cameo work, but also just such a fun, cozy movie. All right, take us to your 76.
76 is A Pianist.
Ah, okay. We've talked about this in a very controversial film.
Yes. I was gonna say the first note I took is problematic director. We talked about that during the 2002 Oscars episode.
Yes.
So if you wanted the full story on that, just go check that out because pretty long story of why it's problematic.
Roman Polanski, sexually assaulting and raping a 13-year-old, and then evading capture by being European.
And then it's also just completely it's problematic, but then it's also tragic because he's also a Holocaust survivor. It's a really personal story for him. But in terms of the movie itself, Adrian Brody, his performance in it is fantastic. That's why he won the Oscar.
Yep.
And then I think it was last episode of the top 10s that we were doing where you said you never need to see another Holocaust movie.
Yeah.
Can't remember which one. But, um,
I don't need it.
yeah, but like in terms of this one, whereas Schindler's List, you get like a more like comprehensive look at the Holocaust, where it's like an overarching thing.
Yeah.
A lot more of the larger scale of really what's going on in Poland at the time. This is a lot more personal. It's following one person
Yeah.
the whole time, pretty much. Follows the family for like a good chunk of it, like 45 to an hour. And then the rest of the time, you're just following Adrian Brody playing a real person. Vladislav Spielman, I believe is his name. And then, yeah, you just see like the tragedy of his life where him in the Warsaw ghetto, and you see him like being separated from his family and then being taken to Treblinka. It's really, really like awful.
Yeah.
But and then you see like at times it's like super quiet and he has to like hide just in the complete like devastating ruins of Warsaw.
Yeah.
And then you get like he has to be completely quiet. And then at the very end, he finally gets to play piano again because he has to prove himself that he is who he is to this German uh, captain or someone. And then he finally gets to play the piano again, but he's like at first all like raggedy,
Yeah.
can barely move his hands and stuff. So it's like a really beautiful scene. Um, but yeah, main thing is Adrian Brody's performance in it is
Yeah, again, a lot of controversy. It's one of those that I don't think I'd ever watch, even regardless of how good it is.
yeah.
For Adrian's performance.
I totally get that.
But the final statement on that is fuck Roman Polanski. But to all the people who worked on that movie that got a job out of
Yeah.
it and made something incredible outside of Roman Polanski, good for you.
Exactly.
But fuck Roman Polanski. Piece of shit.
Considering he ran from justice.
Yeah, and he's just
shitty.
he's just living life in Europe, and you're like, go fuck yourself. It's a trash. Another movie that I know I would if you told me place a bet where this is going to be, I assume it's in your top 25, if not higher. We're going to 1975's highest grossing film. We're going to Jaws for my number 76 movie.
Oh, yeah. Way up there.
Oh yeah, I knew it. Here's what I got. Did I only watch this in my mid-20s? Yes. Did I do so while losing my hearing on a flight from Hong Kong to Bangkok? You betcha. But goddamn, this is a movie that made me a Spielberg convert. The suspense of a malfunctioning robot shark, huh? Like, the story behind me watching Jaws for the first time is indelibly ingrained in my head as one of the wildest fucking experiences I've ever had. And learning during 2017, Asian Netflix, way fucking better than American Netflix, let me tell you. Because there was no competition. So they had fucking everything. So I sat in the Hong Kong airport for 4 hours, downloading every good movie you could never get on American Netflix at the time. And I watched Hong Kong.
I think most foreign Netflixes are better than ours.
Yeah.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah. So I watched Jaws on a flight from Bangkok or from Hong Kong to Bangkok on my way to my honeymoon. And lost my hearing because of it, because that's when I learned, oh, hey, you can't do planes with normal headphones, Evan. You won't hear for 24 hours. Have fun with that. But, well fucking worth it, because that movie's incredible. And that was the thing is, like, I had this thing with Spielberg where that was an era where I was very much challenging my hipster views. Where if something was too popular or something was talked about too much, I immediately just hated it. I did the same thing right around the time with the Beatles, where I started listening to the Beatles out of nowhere, and I went, why did I hate this? Why did I hate the Beatles out of nowhere? Spielberg was a similar thing, where there was a few movies that I knew I loved from Spielberg, but I was like, I don't know, he's that Schindler's List guy. It's not something I want to watch. And now I'm like, oh fuck, greatest director of all time, obviously.
Yeah.
And Jaws is so goddamn good. So goddamn.
Yeah. The thing because it's on my list way up there, so I won't say much. I'll just say he made people afraid of the water.
Oh yeah.
Period.
Yes.
Like, like it doesn't matter if it's a lake, a river, the ocean. Like, made people afraid to swim.
Jaws is the reason I still have to have conversations with kids I work with about water safety. We're like, I don't want to go in there. There's sharks. I'm like, we're in lakes in the Midwest. There's no sharks.
Exactly.
There's no sharks, dude. Or same
Yeah.
deal when we talked to, when I was working outside of Philly, and all the kids would take vacations to the Jersey Shore or whatever. They're like, well, I don't go very far into the water. Like I don't want to go. I don't really want to swim. And I'm like, why? Well, there's sharks. And I'm like,
Probably
this is all because of Steven Spielberg, dude.
you could probably take a boombox to your local like YMCA pool and play the Jaws theme, and people would freak out.
People would be like, oh, I don't know. Also,
Be
just
be uneasy about
a
it.
little throwback here to our horror movie Royal Rumble. Bruce the Shark from Jaws does make an appearance, and in his strengths I have size, bloodthirst, Amity Bay swimmers, and John Williams scoring.
Oh yeah.
With his only weakness being bigger boats.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
We'll talk about it more
Yeah.
higher up, but Jaws is certainly a great movie and belonged in my top 100. So it's my 76.
Yeah. My 75, I'm sure, is also higher on your list, and I'll also only give one sentence review. The Godfather.
Not on my list.
Uh, okay. My one sentence review. It's The Godfather. Like, literally everyone knows it.
Regardless
You
of if
don't need
they've
to
seen
talk
it,
about it.
they know it. Yes. The Godfather is
There's
one of
no
those movies that takes on a second life after its first life because of how often it's parodied, how often it's talked about, how often it's. I mean, shit. I'm watching. Godfather came out in what 72, right? So
yes.
we are. That movie is over 50 years old, and I'm watching, you know, Monday Night Raw, and they're referencing The Godfather from 72. Like CM Punk's got a fucking tweet or like Instagram message about Vito Corleone, like, oh, he owes me a favor, all this kind of shit. It's like, it's wild how much that's been parodied and how influential that movie is. That was another early movie for me that challenged what good movies meant. Good movies weren't just you had fun, whiz bang pow. Good movies
Yeah.
became these indelibly great stories. However, through time, because I would say at one time The Godfather would have been pretty high on my list, and now I'm like, I don't know, I get it.
Yeah. And this is where it's clear it's a personal list and not the greatest movies of all time.
Yeah,
Because I would say, like, yeah, The Godfather is one of the best movies ever made. But it's not in my personal, obviously not in my personal top 20.
yeah. Well,
It's
I think that speaks to why it's important to have these lists, not just to inflate our ego or say no, you should be listening to us because we love these movies and that means they're the best. We're not saying that, but it shows the importance of audience participation in a film because it's what we talked about in all our Oscar episodes too, especially the last one of the recaps of 19 through 23. How often movies they just get labeled as Oscar bait, and a lot of people are like, I don't connect with those movies, regardless of how good some of those are. And The Godfather is kind of an early example of that for a lot of people. They're like, it's so long, it's so slow, it's not enjoyable, and I understand people not wanting to do that. It doesn't make it any lesser than as a film. It's a great film. I
yeah,
understand
that's
why
the
people are like,
problem. And that's the problem with it being labeled stuff like that is like people then just aren't willing to give it a shot
yeah,
when literally I've never heard of someone who actually watches it saying, "Oh, I just did it."
yeah. Most people, even if they're like, it wasn't my cup of tea, can say it was really good.
Yeah.
And the thing is, The Godfather is I found that at 14. That was when I was getting into movies. And I just was like, I'm gonna buy the Godfather box set for Christmas for myself. I remember our dad just went, "The fuck you doing that for? Why?" And I was like, "It's supposed to be really good, and I want to learn more about movies. I want to know." And I watched The Godfather, and I was like, "Great." And then I had to have a book report, and I was like, "I'm gonna do it on The Godfather, and I'm just gonna recite the movie essentially, and I'll be fine."
Yeah.
Which isn't inherently true, but it worked. Sorry, Mr. Terry, if you're still out there listening. But yeah, it's a great movie. It's just
It's a Godfather.
it's not as enjoyable. I'm a little concerned Oppenheimer's going to go that route.
I could see it.
I mean, I just had this experience. As of recording, we're recording this episode in January, even though it's coming out in March, just because we're kind of bankrolling some episodes to our schedules. But the other night, I was like, I'm in a mood for movies, and then I was like, I'm gonna go rewatch Oppenheimer. It's time. I'm gonna rewatch it. And I looked and I was like, do I really want to sit down for 3 hours to watch this movie?
3 hours is an investment.
Which ironically, then I watched 2.5 hours of Mission Impossible. So it was like,
Yeah.
but it was like, well, I haven't seen Final Dead Reckoning, but I have seen Oppenheimer. I guess I'll watch Dead Reckoning.
Okay.
So
yeah.
I was like, fine, I'll watch the new one, but it is interesting to say the least. Talk about quality films here on the turn from The Godfather at 75. A film that is clearly so much better in every way, shape, or form. And you know what I'm setting you up for. Just look over my shoulder. 1995's Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie, baby. Again.
It's good. Hey, skydiving seems pretty good.
There's a lot of fun sequences in that movie. There really is, especially for a kid of that age. That is a 90s kid movie through and through. And you'll be shocked that it still has a lot of importance to me over my shoulder right here, as I collect Power Ranger toys from my childhood. It's what more can you say than it's Morphin Time? It's the peak of the greatest 90s kid franchise you could ask for. The morphing sequence, the action sequences, and the absurd number of flips. Let's fucking go. To this day, I'm still fearful in the dark of the possibility of Ivan Ooze may pop out and get me.
I was gonna say Ivan Ooze, good villain.
That's a good villain. It really is. The thing is this: I'm not gonna sit here and say that fucking Jason David Frank is Marlon Brando in The Godfather. Okay, that's not what I'm fucking saying. But there's a lot of fun to that movie. That's just enjoyable. It's a fun, quick 90 minutes.
People were still referencing Ivan Ooze when Oscar Isaac's Apocalypse, those photos came out.
That brought me a lot of joy where I was like, we're finally coming around. Things I like are going to be in the movies again.
I remember when those photos came out of Oscar Isaac. It's what he did look like.
He looked like Ivan Ooze.
Like Ivan Ooze.
Yeah, in Apocalypse. I think Ivan Ooze is a great addition as a villain. The morphing sequence is the best morphing sequence in franchise history. And it's a lot of fun. And the action, I will say, I think the movie peaks in the first 20 minutes. I will say that. Because it has the skydiving scene, and then the classic, oh, they're 90s kids, what do? Oh, they're rollerblading through the city. You're like, okay. But then they go to the construction site, and the entire fight through the construction site is actually a lot of fun. And builds a lot of tension for the movie in terms of what tension can be in a Power Ranger movie. But it's a lot of fun. After that, it kind of just meanders, and you're like, okay, cool. We got the powers back.
Yeah.
Show me the Zords. That's all that fucking matters here. But it's actually quite a bit of fun. So I enjoy that movie. It clearly Power Rangers means something very much to me. And clearly better than The Godfather to me. So, here we go.
Sure.
No, Ivan Ooze still fucking scares me. To this day. You would know how Dylan can attest to this. We didn't have a split level house, but we kind of had a split level house in a way. Where we had the landing at our back door, and then you had like 6 steps up to the first floor, and you had 6 steps down to the basement from there. I would spend so much time in the basement downstairs, and every time I was in the basement at night and had to go upstairs, I like bolted across the back door because we had that big window in the back door. Every time I bolted because like I know one of these days he's gonna be here. I know that fucker's gonna get me one of these days, and I would blast as fast as possible to the front. Once I got to the first floor, it's fine. Once I got past, it's fine. I just built it in my head so much because that character actually left a mark on me as a kid. So love Mighty Morphin Power Ranger. Take us to an inferior movie at 74.
74 fittingly is 1974's The Texas Chainsaw Man.
Not even a. Was this a nice little? It got in that range, and you're like, oh, I'll put it at 74, or is it just kind of like that's how it works?
I think it was just happenstance, honestly.
Works. It's fun.
Yeah. So, one of the things I love about it is like you think it's a gory movie,
Yeah.
but it's not at all. Like it's all power of suggestion, really. It's like the first Halloween
Sure.
where you really never see blood at all. It's all just like cutaways around the gore
Yeah.
that suggest that everything's happening, and then you put in your mind what's filling in the blank.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, it's like a really grimy, dirty, like yeah, like documentary style almost, and it just feels.
The film grain in that adds a
Oh yeah,
lot. Adds a
oh
lot to
yeah,
that film.
yeah. It's really low budget. I have the numbers here actually. 1 second, I gotta flip the page. $140,000,
That's wild.
and then it ended up making $30 million. So
Great return on
pretty good.
investment right there, buddy.
Yeah, I was gonna say great return. Um, yeah, I just love how like in terms of a slasher movie, that's like the most real feeling there is.
Yeah. Hey, much like me pointing over my shoulder, could you point over your right shoulder and shift to your left a little bit?
Oh, oh yeah, right here.
Wonder if Dylan likes Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, yeah,
We all have our little keepsakes. Mine are little
yeah,
robot dragons and tigers, and yours are
yeah.
bloody chainsaws.
Yeah, that was the 50th anniversary one.
Yeah. I mean, it inspires the genre. And I've yet to watch the movie in full. I've seen, obviously, clips of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but it's it inspires an entire genre that is bankable to
Yeah.
this day.
Yeah, we talked about Black Christmas. We did a full episode on that.
Yep.
That and Black Christmas came out within each other. Um, Texas Chainsaw in October, and then Black Christmas in December. Like those two help create the slasher genre.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And there's a reason that they keep being made. Beyond the fact that people like them, they make fucking money because they're cheap.
Oh yeah,
They're cheap and they make money.
yeah, yeah. And unfortunately, the Texas Chainsaw franchise is not good, other than the first one.
Yeah.
It's really unfortunate. Like I would say, the only other one that has some quality is the remake.
Sure.
Uh,
Which
but
one?
yeah,
Which remake?
the one with Jessica Biel,
Yeah,
the
okay.
2003 one. That one's okay. Every other one is pretty much garbage.
I would have, yeah.
So yeah,
Hey, it inspires you every day. It really does.
yeah.
You love that genre. I'll take on 74. We're going to 2005. It's nice. It's ninth highest grossing film. You'll be shocked. It's another visit to Christian Bale Town. We're going with Batman Begins. Um, in my blurb, I will share a story that is fun. The movie advert that led to Dylan giving me one of the biggest jump scares I've ever had in life.
Oh yeah, I
Which,
forgot about that.
fuck you, by the way, for that still. But this this only reignited my already strong love for the greatest fictional character ever created. I stand by that statement. I'll stand by that statement till the day I die. This movie led me down the primrose path to becoming a comic book nerd, and it's the best origin story on screen for Batman. That
I would
is,
agree.
it's Batman Begins is incredible. Would you like to retell the story of how you scared the shit out of me for that movie?
But from what I remember, the trailer said the number one movie in America.
Yeah.
And then while it said that, you were like, yes. And then I snuck up behind you and just screamed as loud as I could. And then, yeah, just scared the shit out of me.
Because I was not prepared. I'm like, yeah, Batman, it's getting recognition. I love this movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, fuck. Yeah, you got me good on that one, you little bastard.
Yeah, yeah. I used to do that quite often.
Yes, to many people, not just to me. So, I may have been a favorite target, but I wasn't the only target.
Yeah, Batman Begins used to be on my list.
Batman Begins is an incredible movie, and
Yeah, I actually really have grown to appreciate that movie. I didn't actually used to like it all that much.
it's a movie that ages really well, but it's also I would equate Batman Begins to the college friend you don't see that often. But the second you pick up the conversation, it's like no time has passed, and you remember how much you fucking loved that friend. That's what Batman Begins is. Everybody talks about The Dark Knight for obvious reasons, and trust me, much higher on my list.
Yeah.
But Batman Begins establishes, it takes all the good components that comic book movies were making at the time. All the strides they were making from X-Men, Blade, and Spider-Man. It takes all of those and puts far more heart and pathos into what they're doing. To where you told a human story through Batman. And logically explain why would Batman do this? How could he do this? How would he have to portray? It's not my favorite interpretation of the character, but it's an incredible interpretation of the character. And Nolan and Christian Bale do such a good job with that character. Cillian Murphy, great as the Scarecrow. Tom Wilkinson is a great Carmine Falcone,
Yeah.
and God, Michael Caine is an incredible Alfred. He was made for that role.
Yeah. The only downfall is what's her face?
Oh,
Uh,
Katie Holmes.
yeah, I don't really love her.
I think she works for it, but I think the reason I like it is the with her appearance being a little bit more of a baby faced, young.
Yeah.
There's an endearing naivete to that character that helps with the idealism of it all for me. But I think that's why it works for me.
I've always just that character's supposed to be so strong,
Yeah,
especially in the sequel. Like
yeah.
it just never worked.
The only thing I will say is I do wish there was a different love interest. I'm not against. I think Katie Holmes and Maggie Gyllenhaal both do a very good job in what they're given, and it's admittedly like you went down to the rabbit hole where you got Lucius Fox in this. Lucius Fox is a bit player in Batman history previous to the movies. That's how powerful these movies were. That it completely revitalized parts of Batman's canon that was already strong in DC at the time. They're like, oh no, we need to have Lucius Fox in this somehow. He's become too popular of a character not to. This franchise has become so popular, we have to put these pieces in to make it. But there's so many great love interest characters for Batman and Bruce Wayne that I'm like, we just got one. Like, even just change his name to a comic book character. Do Julie Madison. Do Silver St. Cloud, somebody like that. That's the only thing I would say. I think I can understand that critique, but the rest of that movie is incredible. And some of the shots with Ra's al Ghul, the frozen lake shot, the like temple house on the hill, those are beautiful, Beautiful
Yeah.
shots.
Actually, yeah, one of the things I actually really like about it is it's a little less refined
Yeah.
than The Dark Knight, and because it feels a lot more it feels different than The Dark Knight in that way. I like that. It feels different than and that's what I think a sequel should do.
Yeah.
I don't like when
It's
a
rinse and
movie
repeat.
feels
Yeah.
yeah, if it feels the exact same. I don't like that. So I like that they feel distinct.
And I think that's a very good and fair point to bring up. And the other thing is, Batman Begins does not have the problem of the shaky cam action that gets critiqued in the beginning of The Dark Knight Rises, or The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises specifically. A lot of people don't like the shaky cam action that kind of like the Bourne franchise started. And Batman Begins doesn't really have that problem.
I don't associate that with that franchise at all.
There's some people who do. I disagree with the take, but I could understand it. But Batman Begins does not have that
Yeah.
problem at all.
I was gonna say that's nothing like the Bourne. The Bourne movies, those are like glorious.
Yeah.
Like those are really bad at that. Yeah.
But Batman
Um,
Begins, love that fucking movie.
I-73 is another comic book movie. Oh, I can't say that because they're not. It's a superhero movie. The Incredibles.
Great fucking movie.
Yeah. Eh, yeah. Just the little blurb I wrote is just it's a fun, heartwarming, like super action packed superhero movie. One of the best superhero movies ever made.
Yeah.
And it's an animated movie.
Here's the
Like,
thing: is this was what made earlier comic book movies. There's this. It's like everything. Iron Man and Dark Knight is kind of the cut. There's everything but pre Iron Man and kind of the Dark Knight because it came out the same year, and there's everything post Iron Man. Pre Iron Man, the way things were going to be successful was tell a human story in a superhero movie. Don't tell a superhero movie. That was the way things were going to be successful. Even down to the original Superman. They made you care about Clark Kent. They made you care about Lois Lane. They didn't just go, Superman saves the day, yay! Because then when they started doing that, that's when those movies went straight to shit.
yeah, pretty much.
Same
Yeah.
deal. Same deal with Batman movies. When they really focused on Michael Keaton, Bruce Wayne, Michelle Pfeiffer, Catwoman, Kim Basinger, the characters, the human drama of it, and then you had Batman, it worked really well. Same thing with X-Men, all those movies that worked. The Incredibles is the same thing. It's just a family coming together story with superhero costumes. That's all it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I really love the family dynamics and like Violet's just like this awkward teenage girl and the powers correlate with that. She just wants to be invisible.
Yes.
Like the energetic little kid, obviously super speed, and then the baby obviously is just like a chaotic devil child.
Yeah.
Like
Well, I also love even
can't
when you
figure out his
even when you
powers.
apply that, you have super strength dad. Dad's always got to be the superhero.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then I
he
love
has
that.
to be Superman.
And a lot of people are like, what about Elastigirl? It's like she's got to be everywhere. She's got to cover everything because
Yeah,
that's what a
has
mom
to be
does by
he has
most
to be
people's standards.
flexible.
Yeah, she has to be super flexible to an unfair degree, and that's what Elastigirl is.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's a lot of fun when you put that out there. That's the thing, is that's what I've always heard. When you hopefully this year we get a great Fantastic Four movie. It looks like we might finally get one, but who knows? That's been said in the past. But for the longest time, the counter people are like, oh, there's never been a great Fantastic Four movie. The counterpoint was, yeah, there has. It's just not a Fantastic Four movie. Well, what do you mean? I'm
it's true.
like The Incredibles is just the Fantastic Four, really. And they added a baby. And guess what? The Fantastic Four also have Franklin Richards. So it's the same thing. It's just the suits are red, black, and yellow as opposed to blue and white.
Yeah, and like it was The Incredibles is so good that people are crying out for Pixar to do something they pretty much never do, which is make a sequel. Like
For ages, they either plan sequels or they just say no. Well, this is a one-off,
exactly.
and they
And
demanded that.
I wish they had never made a sequel, even though I actually do love Incredibles too. But that's just because I wish Pixar would just completely original stuff every single time. But that is something like people demand a sequel for a movie, and that's something Pixar just seemed to never want to do,
In a weird way, it's kind of one of the classic.
other than Toy Story, which I was. That's like the one thing that they made clear from the beginning is a franchise.
Yeah. It's really interesting with that because that movie's tailor made for a franchise. It's just
Oh,
tailor
I
made.
know. Yeah, you could make like tons of movies
And
of
the
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 series.
irony being this: if that movie comes out in 2008 or right after the Marvel acquisition by Disney, you can bet your ass that's a franchise that's coming out almost every year.
Oh yeah. Well, no, even if it was just Disney, not Pixar,
Yeah. You can
like
bet your sweet ass that that movie is being made every 2 to 3 years like clockwork, and you're introducing toy lines every fucking year with The Incredibles. And it's
yeah,
something that makes it better because it doesn't feel cheapened by that. Where, like,
exactly.
same thing is, we, timeline wise, we just had our niece over for a sleepover. And she's 6, and she wanted to watch Despicable Me 4. And I think Despicable Me 1 is a pretty damn good movie. Despicable Me 2, I'm like, okay, it's fun. By the time you're getting to the fourth one, and it's just rinse, repeat joke, it's very cheapened. And I understand why kids love it, but adults, there's not much to it. The Incredibles never has that taint to it. Never has that.
Yeah. Well,
And
there's still a great part to Incredibles
yeah,
that kids can love and adults can love.
very much so. And it also
And at
gives
the
one of the best lines that has lived in my household for years.
Are you talking about Frozone?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. I mean,
I'm doing this for the greater
I
good. I'm the greatest good you're ever gonna get. And you're like, damn! Like, that's an accurate
yeah.
portrayal of a marriage right there, dude.
Because the funny thing is, like, at the center of The Incredibles, which is really animated movie for kids,
Mm-hmm.
it's following a middle-aged man.
Yes.
Like, it's his story and his arc that you're following. So,
Yes.
it's actually a really unique animated movie.
Very much so. And a very endearing film, nonetheless.
Yeah.
Alright, I'll take you to 1990 for my next film. To my 73. It is Back to the Future Part 3.
Okay.
Cue the Western motif love once again. This Western motif. Uh, this movie is so great that I fondly remember a day I had horrid food poisoning. That's how fucking much I love this movie. Thank you, TNT, for the quarterly marathons of this franchise during my teenage years. Doc and Marty are still on point, and Mary Steenburgen is a breath of fresh air in this movie. They have mastered Doc and Marty by this point, and then to add the brilliance of Mary Steenburgen in this, glorious. To tell the personal story, it's like one of the first times our parents like left for the weekend and kind of left us with somebody that wasn't like a direct family member. And they're like, hey, you can be fine. Like, she's going to check up on you guys and you're going to be okay and whatever. We ordered pizza and something went wrong and I got food poisoning. And I was fucking miserable all Sunday. But thank God TNT had their usual quarterly Back to the Future marathon. And I would just try to hold vomit until a commercial break because I was so enthralled with that movie. That's how much I love Back to the Future 3.
Yeah.
I was actively going, oh, God, I feel so bad. Marty, come on! Like, that's how much I love Back to the Future
Yeah.
3.
Yeah, Back to the Future 3 only gets a bad rap because it's the worst of the three.
I disagree with
And
that entirely. Back to the Future 2 is worse than Back to the Future 3.
well, I mean, popular opinion is that it's the worst of the three.
That's a yes. I can understand that. That's a
Yeah.
wrong. That's truly wrong. But yes,
Um, but, like, it doesn't matter which one you're talking about. They're all like incredibly fun adventure movies.
yeah. Back to the Future 2 is the worst of the three, and I still fucking love Back to the Future 2. It's not
I
like
think I,
it's
I think I do like part three the lead, but I still love it. Like I don't hate any of those movies. I love all three.
the Doc turning a train into a fucking time machine is
Yeah.
awesome. It's just
I
awesome.
yeah, all three are amazing.
And that's where I think Back to the Future 3 is really impressive because they start doing stuff in 1990 that's used all the time now with time travel movies or other things in franchises, like when they're doing multiverses and all this kind of stuff, where Leah Thompson is Marty's
Oh,
great
sure.
great grandmother, and then Michael J. Fox is also playing his great great grandfather, and
Yeah.
you have all these elements. You have Biff's relatives and it's still played by Biff. It's kind of like you're getting this multiverse of characters still. You
Yeah.
still get Strickland being his fucking like great
Yeah.
grandfather is
Yeah.
a Wild West sheriff. And you're like, yeah, that tracks. It's just so much fun and enjoyable storytelling. They really do a good job of getting a lot of great landscape shots. That set looks incredible. That western town looks so good and very
Yeah.
aware. I love how Doc dresses Marty up for the transition. He's like, "Have you seen a western?" And he's like, "Yeah." And Clint Eastwood never wore anything like this. It's tremendous. I fucking love Back to the Future 3. What
Yeah,
a great job.
that was filmed back to back with part two, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's part of the reason Back to the Future 2 feels less than to me. Is they were hammering out two movies they never intended on doing.
I mean, can't blame them there for not wanting to do parts two and three, but I know the studio was like, "Hey, we're making this with or without you."
Yeah,
So
exactly. They sat down. They would think it Sin Sheinberg or someone like that, the head of the studio. Was like, all right, it's time to talk about a sequel. They're like, we never intended a sequel, and they kept talking. He eventually just went, so I'm going to make this incredibly clear. We're making a second one, and you can either be part of it or you can't. And they're
yeah,
like, okay, I guess we're making Back to the Future 2 and then 3. Because that's always what I love about, I love the candidness of the interviews about that. Where Robert Zemeckis is like, if I was trying to make, you can tell Back to the Future 2 and 3 were never meant to exist. Because if I was gonna tell those stories, I wouldn't put Jennifer in the goddamn car. Like that infinitely made my
oh,
job harder.
yeah, that it does make it a lot more complicated.
And you can tell because they're like, what's the easiest way to just get her out of this plot?
Yeah, how do I get her out as soon as I can?
Yeah.
Yeah, how do I knock her out of
And
this
it's kind
movie?
of a shame because Elizabeth Shue is a very good actress, and I really enjoy Elizabeth Shue. And it's a
Yeah,
waste of Elizabeth Shue's talent, but it's also hilarious that it's just like she's in the movie for like 5 minutes, and then Back to
yeah,
the Future 3, she's in for legitimately 3 minutes maybe. But
yeah. That is a
that's
shame.
hilarious. But fun movie all around and great times. I love Back to the Future 3. Take us to your 72.
I 72 is a movie I'm sure you've never heard of. From 1946, Best Picture winner, Best Years of Our Lives.
Heard of it? Never watched it. Probably won't ever do it.
Yeah, it's I would call it drama, but it's actually like it's it's kind of like in the vein of all those movies back then, where it's like kind of a drama, but it also has comedy.
It's kind of every
Like,
genre. They're just telling a story, which is why
yeah,
some of those movies work so well. Is they have humor and they have action
they
and they have
yeah
drama and
they age incredibly well because of that.
yeah.
It follows three soldiers who come home all to the same town. Um, and then it just shows their struggles adjusting to civilian. So it shows Frederick March and his struggles adjusting back to his life as a father. It shows Dana Andrews and his struggles because he married this girl that he barely knew. I knew for like a couple months before he shipped off to war.
Oh God.
And he's like, yeah, and then he's dealing with that. So he knew her probably for 3 months, and he's like, I might die in this war. Fuck it, let's get married.
That shit's real though, dude. People do that. People do that
all the time back then.
People still do that today.
Yeah, that's true. And then it turns out when he gets back, they like pretty much hate each other. And then he strikes up a romance with Teresa Wright, who's an actress back then who I just adore. I really love her, and she's the daughter of Frederick March in it. And then the third actor that it follows is Harold Russell, who's uh he wasn't even an actor. He was just a real life soldier who had both of his arms blown off. Like at this point, he was
God
an
damn.
amputee, and he had like clamps instead of hands or hooks or anything. So
That shit's
yeah,
wild.
he was the only person to ever win 2 Oscars for playing the same role. He won Best Supporting Actor, and he also won an honorary award for it. Um, yeah, he's like amazing in the movie. Like for someone who's never acted in his life, and then he's just thrown into a movie.
It's kind of like Father Karras in The Exorcist, where just he pops up out of fucking nowhere and he's incredible.
It's weird, yeah. And then
I mean, that shit happens every once in a blue moon. Everyone's like, first time actor, only time they've ever done it. You're like, what?
yeah, and then you see him like returning to his family, and then he had this high school sweetheart who he's returning to, who he like they were supposed to get married, but he feels like everyone's just like feeling sorry for him and just treating him like no, treating him like a kind of like a wounded,
Yeah.
treating him like, oh, I should just feel sorry for him because he's an amputee now. So yeah, it's really tragic at times, but it's got real heart. It's like got really good laughs in it too. Like there's one part where everyone's just going out on a bender, and it's just really fun. Um, yeah, it's I it's a long movie. It's like 3 hours long,
Okay.
but
Because you were starting to sell me, and then I heard the runtime, and I was like, oh.
oh yeah, it's a long movie, but I really love it. I've probably seen I don't know maybe 15 times.
Oh, that says a lot. You're not a big
Yeah.
rewatcher of movies in your
Well,
modern era.
yeah, and it's in black and white too, which that's the sweet spot for me. I love black and white
Love
movies.
black and white film. Love black and white.
Yeah. And yeah, especially considering it's 46, which it could obviously have been in color. Um, yeah, I really love it. Movie.
Sounds interesting. I'll take a great departure from that. I'll go to 1987, 38th at the box office. It's spooky season. Going the Lost Boys. 80s, vampires, comic books, and edginess. I fell in love with this movie on first viewing, and it has a really underrated music track to it. Cry Little Sister is a tremendous song. Plus bonus points because it has Diane Wiest. Every time I see Diane Wiest, I'm thrilled because I think she's incredible. And she's such a good actress.
Yeah, well, she is great.
Uh,
It's just the fact.
but you got some Goonies vibes mixed with vampire hunting, and you just got stereotypical asshole villains from the 80s that just feel like villains that are really great in it.
Yeah, back to back villain roles for Kiefer
Yeah.
and Stand by Me.
Yeah. It's such a fun movie, and it's paced like a comic book. That's what I think I really enjoy about it. It's very much like, let's go to the next one. Let's get you to the next, and it keeps the pace going, so you never feel. There's still a lot of heart to this, and it's very fun because you're getting to watch Corey Haim kind of be a kid, while also getting Corey Feldman just being like a vicious vampire hunter and stuff like
Oh yeah,
that. It's
yeah.
so much fun, and but they keep the pace going a lot, so you never have time to question kind of the more ridiculous antics of it. You're just always invested in what's happening. I think the pacing in that movie is truly tremendous, by Joel Schumacher. Where it's like, no, let's keep it moving. Don't let anyone worry about the silliness. Let's just embrace the silliness. Let's have fun with it, but let's not let anyone dwell on it to the point where it becomes a detriment to us. And also, a really fun setting for a vampire movie. You wouldn't think vampires in, you know, middle to southern California, but
Yeah,
it's a lot of
yeah.
fun for that.
Out on like the pier and everything.
Yeah, it's certainly there's been the last couple years I've had a few different trips to California, and anytime I kind of see a boardwalk, the first thing I think about is Lost Boys. I just love that. I love the mix of those genres and areas because they don't inherently. You're not like vampires. Where would you put a vampire? Southern California. You wouldn't normally do that,
Yeah, definitely not. No.
there's a lot of good stuff, and also um, even just the few times they do show landscape shots, it's very fun. Especially if it's sad now. We're recording this during the wildfires of California, which
Oh yeah.
respect to everybody who's been dealing with that and also fighting those fires. Thank you for doing what you're doing. We appreciate you doing that for everybody. Um, and if thankfully, hopefully by March, this issue has been kind of resolved as much as it can outside of people losing their homes and having to deal with that still. But going through the Santa Monica Mountains National Recreation Area, utterly beautiful. You can see a lot of that rolling hill section of Southern California that's absolutely beautiful in that film. A lot of fun. I love The Lost Boys.
A lot of cheese in that movie too.
There's plenty of cheese in it, and I'm okay with a healthy amount of cheese as long as you keep the movie fun and enjoyable.
Specifically thinking of the saxophone.
Oh yeah, but
Yeah.
it's it's just fun though, and the vampire den's actually really cool. Very cool vampire den, like a collapsed hotel on the cliff, bringing in natural ideas like an earthquake, taking stuff out. Very fun. Take us to your last film of the episode.
My 71 is The Social Network.
Ah, still a defender of the Social Network, eh?
Yep. I think this is a movie that hard to tell how this is gonna age. That's the thing I'd say.
I
I
think it's
can't
already
tell if it's
aged pretty
going.
damn well. I mean, the movie's 15 years old almost
Yes.
now. Or it is
I can't
15
tell
years
if it's
old.
going. I would like to say it's going to age exactly like Citizen Kane, where it's going to stay completely relevant and it's going to age like that because at the center of it, it's a character study of someone who's just a complete egomaniac.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not this. That's the great part of it is a character study and not the story of Facebook,
The
which
marketing
is
is, the story of Facebook and the drama behind
yeah,
it. That's not what the movie's about.
it's not at all what it's about. It's really not about that. It really at all. Honestly, it's like kind of a courtroom drama at points,
Yeah.
which is some of the more fun parts of it. I really like. Um, I love the structure of it with like the time jumps and
Yeah.
one.
Sorkin's writing for Social Network's incredible.
Yeah,
It's something you can't
yeah.
take away.
I love how like you keep going through all the time jumps, but you never get confused about the characters and where they are in their journey.
Yeah.
That's really something that I personally think would be really, really hard to do. Is it could really be easy to like be like, okay, where are they now?
Yeah.
Like easily just become a jumbled mess. Um, yeah, I'd love the score. Like really, really cold and lonely, but it's still like energetic.
Sure.
Um, yeah, and Jesse Eisenberg
He's
is fantastic.
he is incredible in that movie.
Yeah.
Did you see recently? Finally, there's some interviews that he's had where he talks about taking Lex Luthor in Zack Snyder's Justice League and Batman vs Superman. He's like, that legitimately damaged my career, and he's 100% true. I don't think he's good in that movie. I'm not defending the performance,
I didn't
but
see
that
that, no.
decision literally takes him from rising star Jesse Eisenberg, Oscar nominee level Jesse Eisenberg, to, hey, why don't you go make Zombieland 2? It's
I
really what
mean,
happens.
I think he's having kind of a comeback
Yeah,
because in a good movie this year, I know, with Kieran Culkin. So that should help. I
yeah.
think he might have directed it as well. I might have that wrong. But Andrew Garfield also is incredible in the movie.
Dude, Justin
Does-
Timberlake is good in that movie, and that's saying
Yeah,
something.
that's true. Yeah, David Fincher can get like any actor to be good.
Talk
We
about it.
also have the
Talk about it.
Cannibal, Army Hammer.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, that was what made Army Hammer a star, and then he got Lone
Yeah,
Ranger, and that didn't work out for him. Um,
yes,
it's that movie is kind of a collection of young stars coming to fruition. Jesse
yeah,
Eisenberg, Andrew Garfield, um, Army Hammer got taken seriously. Justin Timberlake gets taken seriously in a career. Dakota Johnson's in that movie.
yes.
Is it Brenda Song's in that movie?
And song. Who's the girl in? Yeah, Quincy Jones's daughter. Shit, Rashida Jones, the lawyer in it.
Yeah, and she's making the
Um,
turn away from The Office and away from comedy, and she's in a more serious
yeah,
role. Yeah,
yeah.
and from Parks and Rec, and she's very much.
Oh, Rooney Mara is also in it.
Oh yeah,
Not for long, but a little bit.
I mean, it's a great collection of talent. Talk about a dream team of a writer and a director.
Yeah, it's a shame that um I'd rather him just stick to writing because I don't think he's a great director. But
David Fincher?
no, no, Sorkin.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, I was like, what?
No,
No,
he started directing stuff as well.
yeah. I think he's clearly a phenomenal writer.
I
But
wish he would work with Fincher more.
I think the issue is with Fincher, I want him to just keep taking swings. I would really like him. It doesn't have to be a comic book character, but I'd love to see David Fincher take kind of a classic character of some kind and just throw something together. Could you imagine like him telling the story of like Frankenstein or Dracula? Getting to play in
I
those
don't think
worlds.
I don't think he wants to do anything fantastic.
Oh, I know.
Just loves like just normal human stuff.
He loves the psychoses of normal human being. Yes.
Yeah, it's why I love Zodiac, like that dark gritty shit.
Yeah. I
That's the
mean,
stuff I love.
I look at Gone Girl a lot. That he makes Rosamund Pike such a villain in that movie.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
think it's so commendable what he does in so many of his films. I mean, David Fincher's incredible. I'll take it. I'll finish off the episode here. I'll take you to 2008 in a wildly different tone. And apparently it was 118th at the box office this year. Saw this in the theater, though, together. Zach and Miri make a porno.
yes,
I fuck.
yes.
I love this movie, but my gateway into an inspiration. Honestly, wish that we got a few more of these studio-friendly films from Kevin Smith. A line that will stick
Oh
with me.
yeah,
A
I
line that,
forgot that was Kevin Smith.
yes, and I think a line that will stick with me for the rest of my life. Roethlisberger was all hug it, chug it, football,
Yep,
all
yep.
that. The way that Kevin Smith can humanize the making of a porno while still telling a romantic comedy is hilarious to me.
Yeah, I loved like the whole like high school reunion part of it
God, it's
at
so
the beginning is
smart.
so good.
It's so smart, and it's even better knowing that you do know the person who's giving out all the stickers and like taking attendance or whatever. That's his wife, Jan Schwalbach, right?
Oh,
That's
okay.
Kevin's wife. So he always tries to get Jen involved, and now he does a lot with his daughter Harley. Um, it's and he's getting to play with more stuff. I wish Kevin got to do more shit like this, or I wish Kevin wanted to do more stuff like this. And it's just he always gets this like boom, and then he gets a bust. And this wasn't like a huge financial success, but the more and more people I've found that have watched this movie adore this movie.
Yeah.
I can't remember if Ab saw this prior to meeting me, or maybe she like heard about it or something. But it's certainly a favorite in our house. Like every year or two, we're sitting on the couch. We're like, I don't know, and then we go through our Amazon like purchases, and I'm like Zack and Miri. She's like, I would love to watch Zack and Miri, and we just it's such an enjoyable film with actually pretty
Yeah.
fun casts. You got
Yeah.
Seth Rogen, Elizabeth Banks, Craig Robinson is obviously super fun in it. Um,
Yep.
and then you have a legitimate porn star doing a pretty actually fun job with it, and Katie
Yeah.
Morgan, Jason Mewes just being Jason Mewes. It just
I mean, just Justin Long in that reunion scene is
oh
also
god, yes, it's fun. I
fantastic.
mean, I think that's what led him to working with Justin Long a lot more. Where Justin Long works with him in almost every movie now that he does. Um,
Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah.
and but yeah, just Kevin's movies are like this. It's just like he,
And probably more down now.
yeah, and I know he was part of the new Masters of the Universe like reboot of He-Man on Netflix that was very popular. He's always dancing around like these old '80s characters now, where they're like, "Well, you would know," but it almost feels every time kind of like when Warner Brothers approached him to do Superman, where it's like, "Well, you're a comic book fan, you should know," and he's like, "Yeah, I'll do it. I don't know why you want me to, but okay." He's been trying to do like Buckaroo
Uh,
Banzai forever, but he got to do Masters of the Universe. But yeah, I wish he just got to team up with the good writer sometimes, put a little bit of his spin on it, and just be like, let's just make a movie. Let's just enjoy it.
you know what? I wish you would just stick to a comedy
Yeah,
and not do a genre thing.
yeah. His horror movie takes are pretty wild. Because Red State's
Yeah.
great. I love Red State, and then Tusk is fucked. Like
Not a fun watch.
not if no. It's I remember leaving the theater because I was like, oh, I love Kevin. I'm gonna go see Tusk. I'm going, and I just went, what the fuck did I watch?
Yeah. Yeah, not a fun watch at all. But
Yeah. And yet he still presents it as trying to be like fun. I'm like, this isn't a fun movie, Kevin. Like, this is you either got to lean into the tragedy or you got to lean into the psychoses, but you can't lean into the fun. That's not how it works. And but I always love the trailer shot of that. Who the hell would want to be human when they could be a walrus? And you're like, what? What kind of line is that? But Zack and Miri, on the other hand, is very quotable, a lot of fun, very endearing, and I just the way that he can rap dialogue is what I really appreciate with Kevin. I love the way he can write dialogue that's sarcastic and fun and enjoyable and relatable. That's what I think his greatest strength is. So I love Zack and Miri. Great movie. And enjoy it
yeah,
thoroughly. That has been our
underrated.
that has been our uh 80 through 71. So Dylan, can you go through 80 and 71 for you?
Go through the whole thing?
Go through just quick recap here.
Yeah. Monsters Inc. Zombieland. Speed. Atonement. The Pianist. The Godfather. Texas Chainsaw. The Incredibles. Best Years of Our Lives. Social Network.
What was your 78?
Speed.
Huh?
Speed.
Oh, Speed. I'm sorry. I was hearing Greed, and I'm like, fuck movie is Greed. So I just forgot to write them down for the graphics and everything. So you're seeing how the sausage is made here, folks. That 80 through 71, History of the World Part 1, Psycho, American Psycho, Casper, Jaws, 75, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie, Batman Begins, Back to the Future 3, The Lost Boys, and Zack and Miri Make Ape. And if you want to catch our previous 20 films to this one, you go check out those episodes. They are available right now. We're going to keep cruising through the top 100 with a episode every single month as we are enjoying just getting to gush about movies. It's fun to only talk about movies that you love. It's kind of enjoyable from time to time. But a lot of fun here, folks. And go check out the rest of our stuff. Check out the finale to the tournament, best action scenes. We're going through that quite hard right now. A lot of other fun stuff coming your way. But thank you so much for joining us. Go watch a great movie and let us know what you think in the comment section. Peace, love, and hugs to you all.